welcome to the Activated Storyteller's 61st podcast, September 20th, 2007.
This week's story is Johnny Appleseed.
Hi, I'm Dennis.
And I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Zephyr.
And together we are...
the Activated Storytellers.
We are back with you this week. We took last week off, just in case you happened to miss us. We missed you too. Last episode we covered Scargo Lake, and we took a journey on Cape Cod on our bicycles.
All the way to the end of Cape Cod, to Provincetown. And this week we traveled from Massachusetts to Connecticut. We ended up in Hartford, in fact.
And we continued on down to New Jersey, which is where we are podcasting from right now.
We did some performances at 4 schools in Newington, which is a suburb of Hartford, and it was a great program. It was part of the library program, the beginning of the school year, or actually end of summer reading program presentation for the Newington library system. And this is something that we did a couple of years ago as well when we were out here.
Yes, and we were happy to be invited back. Now, we do a lot of library programs during the summer, get kids out to the libraries, get them excited about reading, do a show for them. And this is a very unique program. I have not encountered it in any other system that we've done. What the librarian here does is she'll go to the school, about 4 of them, at the end of their school year, so in June, and she announces the program, lets them know about it, invites them to the library. Then the kids come, they read all the summer long and do the program. Then at the beginning of the school year, she holds a special presentation for them, and they are awarded their certificates right there at school in front of their classmates. They get to shake the principal's hand, and of course we perform for them. Now, Newington, Connecticut is right next to Hartford, Connecticut, and there's a lot of great memories, a lot of fun things that we like to do in Hartford.
Hartford nowadays, of course, is the insurance capital of the U.S., but in the old days, say 100 years ago, it was the literary capital. There were publishers and agents who lived around Hartford area, and also writers, and one of the most famous writers, probably the most famous writer who lived in Hartford, was our old friend Mark Twain.
Now, Mark Twain, we've been to most of the places he's lived. We've been to most of the places he's lived in the United States. We've followed his footsteps sort of all over the country because he was notorious for wandering almost as much as we are. We've been to his boyhood home in Hannibal, Missouri, and we saw his home here in Hartford where he lived next to Harriet Beecher Stowe.
Now, one thing I like about touring his house is you get to see the fireplace mantle. And there is a row of objects on this mantle, and all very unique, different objects like figurines and maybe flowers, and I don't remember all of what. But one thing that Mark Twain liked to do was to go down the row of all the objects, and he would tell a story, and he would use all of the objects in sequence as he was telling a story, and this was usually to his daughters that he would tell the stories.
Yes, that's a good illustration of just what a fabulous storyteller he was. He did have this house built, by the way, and it is a really incredibly designed house, as fanciful as some of his fiction. And he actually discovered that it was too expensive to live in it. It was actually cheaper to live abroad, so they often lived in Europe because it was cheaper. And on one such journey, he learned that one of his daughters that had stayed behind in the house had died, and his wife, after that, could never return to the house, so they ended up selling it. I really especially loved the bed that they had brought from Europe. Incredibly intricate.
You got to sleep on it? You enjoyed it?
Yes, I loved it. and also, one other thing I want to mention about Mark Twain, and you can see the evidence of this in the house, is that he was an rabid billiards player. Not only did he play a lot of billiards games there in his house, but he would often just spend long hours there playing around with the billiard balls by himself.
And translation for those of us that are just learning billiards, same thing as playing pool.
Not exactly the same thing, but pretty close.
What's different?
I don't know.
They've both got balls and cues and tables.
I don't know. There is a difference, but I don't recall exactly what it is.
Huh. Well, interesting.
Now, something else that we did in Hartford a while ago, in 2005, we got the chance to see Green Day live at the Hartford Civic Center.
On this trip, we ended up going back to the Hartford Civic Center because that is where the YMCA is in Hartford. Most unusual location for a Y that I've yet to encounter.
Yeah, I think that definitely earned our points for weirdest Y location. You walk in right past the doors of the Coliseum and everything. It's literally on top of it.
Yeah, not recommended if you have an RV to park. It's not the easiest place to get to. So Zephyr turns 17 this week. September 25th is his birthday, and the day after is Johnny Appleseed's birthday. So that's why we chose the story of Johnny Appleseed this week.
We take you now to the frontier days of the U.S., where, on a farmstead, a mother and her boy see a stranger docking his boat.
Mommy, who's that?
What? What is it, Billy?
Who's that, Mommy?
Oh, that's Johnny Chapman. Oh, but everyone around here calls him Johnny Appleseed. Because he travels the country bearing his apple seeds.
Doesn't he have a garbage can at home?
Oh, no. He plants the seeds so that there will be trees to provide food and shade and places to hang swings from.
He sure is wearing funny clothes.
Oh, he made them from coffee sacks.
Oh, he's a fashion designer, too.
Oh, his hat is really an interesting item. He actually wears a pot on his head, so he can use it for his cooking, too.
Dad, burn it. I have to speak to the grocer about this. That's the 47th time I've found hair in my soup.
But he has no shoes on. I thought he did a lot of walking.
Oh, yes, he does. He does it barefoot, in all kinds of weather. In fact, I hear he gets his drinking water by melting snow with his bare feet.
That must really be yummy.
All right, just have to thaw out another quart or so, and I'll have enough to soak my feet to treat them for frostbite. Yes, indeed.
Johnny wanders all over Ohio and Indiana and planting trees. They say he's never been sick a day in his life.
Just goes to show you that 2,000 apples a day can keep the doctor away.
If he's out wandering around by himself, isn't he afraid of being attacked by Indians?
Oh, son, you've been reading too many wild, scary stories.
But I can't even read.
Oh, good. No, the Indians are mighty mad at us settlers for taking away their land, but most of them are friends with Johnny. They know he's doing a good thing, and they just might suspect that his quiver's missing a few arrows. But there was one time when Johnny got word that one group of Indian people planned to attack a village. So he ran over 20 miles to warn people.
The British are coming! The British are coming!
The British? I thought we got rid of them already.
Well, I get confused wandering around the country by myself. Well, somebody's coming. You better batten down the hatches or whatever.
He ran over 20 miles? Wow! He could be some kind of championship racist.
You mean racer, I hope. Now, don't be silly. Nobody would ever run a race that long.
Betcha his feet got plenty sore.
No, he's been walking barefoot for nearly 50 years. His feet are tougher than a goat's and twice as smelly. I hear that one time when he was sleeping, a rattlesnake tried to bite him on the foot.
So, boy, some really ripe toe jam. And the sucker's asleep. This is going to be as easy as apple pie.
What's this? What's going on? I can't let go.
Oh my, a rattlesnake. That almost tickles. Well, here, fellow, I'll just fling you and swing you back out into the woods where you belong. Alley-oop.
Whee!
Fact is, Johnny is a friend to all the animals. He even respects the mosquitoes.
Uh-oh, looks like the smoke from my campfire is causing those mosquitoes to choke. Well, I'll just put out my campfire and sleep in the cold. There's only about a foot of snow on the ground. I'll be fine. I don't know what mosquitoes are doing out in this kind of weather, but it's no stranger than I am, I guess.
He's finished tying his boat. It looks like he's headed this way.
Howdy, folks. How would you like for me to plant some apple seeds on your farm?
Oh, that would be just peachy. Things can get awfully dull out here. It would be so much fun to be able to watch trees grow.
Well, I'll get right to work then. And I'll also be glad to leave you one of my books, as long as you promise to return it within 10 years.
Great, Mom. Maybe we can learn to read now.
Well, we'd be much obliged, Mr. Applecore.
That's Appleseed, ma'am.
Oh, of course, sorry. Say, would you like to stay for dinner?
Thanks, but I'll pass this time. My tummy's been real upset lately. You have any idea how many apples you gotta eat to get all these seeds?
And that's the story of Johnny Appleseed.
Which is a true story, by the way. Johnny Appleseed did really live. His name was John Chapman. He lived to be about 70 years old, and for the last 49 years of his life, he did wander all over the country planting apple seeds.
Right, he was born in 1774 and roamed the countryside from Massachusetts. There's stories of him going out to Ohio, Indiana, and he's supposedly buried somewhere in Indiana. So he did a lot of traveling like we did, except he did it barefoot.
And bareheaded. Well, he wasn't bareheaded. He wore the cooking pan on his head, but he slept out in the open.
So no shelter. Interesting character.
No RV, no tent, no wagon, nothing.
Yep. Now, of course, like I said, that is based on a true story, but I imagine parts of it are exaggerated, kind of like a Davy Crockett story, where it's a real person, but there's elements of it that are a little, well, you don't quite know whether to believe it or not. An exaggeration.
They embroider it, yes.
And that's what makes it a folktale. Well, we are doing school shows right now, and we are busy. Lots of shows coming up in New Jersey. And in fact, we got to go run off and do a show right now today. And we've got New York and Pennsylvania, Connecticut, and then we head on back up to Massachusetts in October.
You can find show notes at activated.libsyn.com. That's LIBSYN.com.
And we'd like to welcome all of the new listeners that have found out about us from the Muse magazine. That's the division of Cricket magazine. There was an article about us and traveling across the country, living in an RV. So welcome, listeners.
Howdy, folks.
And on the 21st, which will be the day after this airs, I'll be jetting out of here to North Carolina. I'll be practicing with my band because we have a big show coming up on the 30th.
Okay, and that's it for this time. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
The Activated Storytellers perform at schools and libraries nationwide. On stage, we use American Sign Language, physical comedy, imaginative props, and a giant, oversized book to bring the stories to life. For booking information, check our website at www.activated-storytellers.com, where you can also find out when the Activated Storytellers will be performing near you. Read a story or order one of our audio CDs. Until next time.